Packers fans out here to stay. Cheeseheads green and gold all day. Jordan Love lead us to the bay. Every game we find a way. Green Bay hustle, grind it up. Hit the field, we don't bluff. Touchdown dances, feel the love. Jordan's got that MVP stuff. It's time for OPE, let's go. Packers bringing that show. It's time for OPE, you know. Green and gold gonna glow. Lambeau Field, our sacred ground. Feel the vibe, hear the sound. Packers fans so loud and proud. Jordan Love, he's wearing the crown. Lambeau Field, our sacred ground. Feel the vibe, hear the sound. Packers fans so loud and proud. Jordan Love, he's wearing the crown.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Ohana Packers Edition podcast. We are OPE, I am Iowa Joe. This is episode 3 of my OPE Unscripted, where I bring random people on to talk about whatever the hell I want to talk about. We are having a return guest. This gentleman I had on last year who runs the Cookin with Congress account on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Bennett Rae. Bennett, it's good to see you again. Thanks for coming back.
Hey Joe, it's great to be back. Thanks for having me.
You are the first time second guest of this series that I've been doing. So, well, you've been a busy man. So it was. We were trying to get you worked on to come in and talk during for the Pittsburgh game this last season, but we couldn't get that schedule wrapped around. But we just got done with the draft not too long ago. How are you feeling about your Steelers going into this season?
Oh, terrible! Really, really bad. We just got the news, very recently that Aaron Rodgers is coming back. He's 67 years old, and I don't see how anything could go wrong with that plan. Listen, I'm looking at 2027 in that draft class. Honestly, we've got a great defense. We have the oldest quarterback in the world, and a brand new head coach, brand new defensive coordinator. Offensive coordinator, I don't know. Part of me is hoping that we go like 3-14 and get a crack at an excellent quarterback, but my heart knows that we'll go 9-8, make the playoffs, and get blown out by the Bills. Yeah.
Well, you got something special going on though. Even though you are getting old man Rodgers, you are getting his old coach and Mike McCarthy. So maybe they can rekindle a little bit of the flame and make a little bit of a run. I know I've been seeing way too early predictions of a Packers-Steelers Super Bowl, so...
Where have you seen that? Is that just prediction? There's no... if you can find betting odds on that, I would predict like a Cardinals-Titans Super Bowl before Packers-Steelers. Packers have a shot for sure. I do believe in the Packers as a great team this year. So good luck to you. I would be stunned to see you in the Super Bowl. I
think a lot of it is just it would be the good story being McCarthy Rodgers versus LaFleur Love. The two that replaced the other two. I think we have. One of the preseason games this year is against Pittsburgh, and one of the friends of the show, JJ Leahy, it kind of railed against that because it's in Pittsburgh, and he was saying that, what better story than to have them come back into Lambeau and play. So it's kind of weird that that's happening, but I have to say I did love a little bit of the draft class this year. You got my boys Jennings Dunker and Caden Weegan from Iowa. I think if Caden can do just half of what he did for at least special teams for the Steelers, I think you're going to fall in love with him. I had high hopes of him going to Green Bay because they are in desperate need of special teams return men, and Caden is one of those that he's electric. So even if he doesn't do anything on offense, if he can do what he did with special teams, you'll have something special. And then, of course, Jennings has got the the ginger mullet, so that that's kind of his source of power.
I like our draft class, and yeah, Caden's excellent. We needed it because we lost Kenny Gainwell to the Bucks in free agency, and he was kind of our great return guy a lot of the time, and I guess Calvin Austin too. Yeah, so we really lost all our return folks. That was a smart pick. I feel like we generally draft fairly well. It's just been the quarterback question for. It's pretty much like the last year of Ben Roethlisberger was the last time that I remember being like, I know what we're doing, and swimming in the depths, the murk right now, as you in the wilderness of no quarterback hell.
Well, I will give you a little glimpse of hope that I did like Will Howard when he was drafted. I do like Drew Aller. I think he's got a hell of an arm. And I trust Mike McCarthy when it comes to quarterback development. He did a lot of things for guys here or not here, but with Green Bay that, he had there were some scrubs that the Packers had as second string that he really helped out. And then, of course, Rodgers. He really helped Rodgers. That was one of the main reasons why Rodgers dropped in the draft, was because they were worried about his arm angle and his footwork and stuff like that. And McCarthy pretty well got him shipshape for that. So if anybody I would trust with a quarterback, it would be Mike McCarthy. So that gives you that little glimmer of hope, unless you're hoping to get into the arch sweepstakes or whatever. But
There's no way. I haven't seen like I don't know if I've lived long enough to see like a 3-13, 3-14 season from the Steelers. The worst record I ever remember was a Bill Cowher years, which is over 20 years ago. A 6-win season, and it was just awful. So I'm very spoiled, and we're like, oh, we're having a bad couple of years where we still make the playoffs and win 10 games. So there are teams out there that are just it's brutal to be a fan, like the poor Cleveland Browns, the poor Browns. Like
I think there's one per division, because we've got the Lions. Well, no, we've got three. Minnesota hasn't been to a Super Bowl since the 60s. Lions, I think they made one in the 50s. Or no, that was even before the Super Bowl era, so I don't think they've ever been to one. And then, of course, Chicago hasn't won one since 85, so
yeah,
it's crazy. But we're not here to talk about football. We're here to talk about cooking with Congress. I did remember the question I was going to ask you from last year, so I do want to start out with that one. That way I don't forget it again this year and have to wait another year to... But you do a lot of for those that don't remember, you do a lot of the recipes for like presidents and politicians and the like, and you make them, you eat as this person, for a day, as you say it. Has any of the families ever reached out to you and been like, hey, I don't know where you got that, but that's not quite how we did it, or hey, we used to eat this all the time and it really sucked, we agree with you? Or has any of the families ever reached out after you've tried one of the recipes?
I haven't gotten too many of the families that have reached out. Well, there was one, I don't know if I talked about it in the previous episode. The only person that reached out after I attempted the recipe was George Santos.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I made his carbonara, and he reached out and he was like, "You did not do it correctly." And he reached out in public on the comments section of like the Instagram post, and people were like, "Is this the real George Santos, the infamous George Santos?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's him. He's just not verified on Instagram," which is very funny to me. He might have been in jail at the time. I don't actually know. But he reached out, and then he sent me a DM on Instagram at like 11:05 p.m. Eastern time, and it was just a picture of the carbonara that he had made that night because he was so pissed off. He was like, "Well, I'm going to make it the right way and show it to you." And so there's like the classic like gilded plate or whatever. It's got like the Greek gold on the outside, and then it's this like creamy carbonara. And he was just like, had to make it right since somebody screwed up my recipe. And so I was like, at once I was like, I feel like he's mad, but also like flirting, and I need to remake this recipe. I felt guilty, so I was like, I'm sorry, George. Like I I did assume when you said there are peas in it that it wasn't snow peas. Why would anyone assume snow peas? You assume green peas. So I made it with snow peas, changed the weight of the Parmesan. It was better. It was even better, and it was already a good recipe. So he's the only one that's reached out directly and snarkily.
Yeah, I wondered about that because, obviously a lot of these are family style recipes. So I just was kind of curious that if any of obviously some of them aren't going to reach out because those families run, you're using recipes from like the 1700s. So I don't know how many of them actually know that they're related to said person. So who knows what's going on there? But uh, you've I got another one wrote down here that you've recently done sack sauce. And I think you said it was John Adams's favorite meal or dessert or whatever it is. To me, it looks like a bread pudding. Is that basically what sack sauce is a bread pudding style thing?
Yeah, so it was an Abigail Adams recipe called Beggar's Pudding with Snack Sauce, which is obviously incredibly fun to say, and that's what drew me to it in the example. But the Beggar's Pudding part of it is, yeah, it's like a poor man's bread pudding, right? So you're not getting the finest bread. It's maybe a day old. You're sticking raisins in there, maybe currants. You can do dried currants as well, and then you are just slathering it after you bake it. You're slathering it in this extremely alcoholic sack sauce. So sack just means sherry, like there's dry sack sherry. So it has nothing to do with other kinds of sacks. I don't know. And
Easy.
it is boozy. It's so boozy. The sauce is basically just like pouring. If you just made bread pudding and you're like, I don't want to caramelize anything, I'd rather just pour a bottle of white wine on top. That's kind of what it tastes like.
Did do you think that they added a lot of that alcohol stuff to their food because the food wasn't necessarily up to par, but it was what they were used to eating for so long that they just started having to add like alcohol and stuff like that to it to just make it palpable?
Alcohol was such a consistent part of daily life back then. I mean, I think maybe you saw the John Adams episode, but like he started his day with alcohol, like
Yeah.
to a tankard of cider. There's different accounts, but somewhere between like 2 and 12 ounces of cider in the morning. It's obviously like a session level, so less alcoholic than modern ciders, 2 to 3% ABV, but um, it was cleaner than the water, and so people drank a lot more back then. It was kind of distributed throughout the day from sherry and eventually champagne or Madeira, cider, wine. So it was, I think, just so common to cook with it. And it was always on hand. They're like, oh yeah, we'll make a sauce out of it. And it definitely, I mean, it blew out the bread part. I wasn't tasting like the cheap bread, the raisins that much anymore. So there's some validity to that theory.
Yeah, and then of course you did the Thomas Jefferson hot toddy, and that was looked like it was jam packed with alcohol in it, and it's completely different than what I think of as a hot toddy because I always grew up with a hot toddy being, black tea with honey and all that, and then you add whatever spirits that you wanted to, and usually you only drank it when you were sick or if you needed that warm uh chill, but to warm up that chill you had. But you know I think I'd be screwed because I haven't drank alcohol in like 10 years, so I wouldn't be able to survive on a lot of the stuff that they made back then because
No, no, yeah, it's pretty strong. And the toddy, like you're right, like a regular toddy, I think of it that way of like it's water or tea, right? You add the whiskey and the lemon. This is more like it's rum and brandy. You add a little bit of water and then lemon and some spices. It's tasty. It's flavorful. Not exactly seasonal for this time of year, but I'm pulling out a lot of these old founder recipes because
yeah.
it's 250th is coming up very soon, and so there's Thomas Jefferson recipes. There's Abigail Adams. I'm covering some recipes from like Hercules and James Hemings, who are some of the like slaves who made a lot of the food for George Washington and Thomas Jefferson. And of course, I'm going to eat like George Washington very soon for a day.
Are we going to get the Alexander Hamilton meal yet?
Ooh, that's a good question. His his daily day of eating is a little tougher to pin down, but I've got some meals and my eye on a few of them. But there's so much that I'm trying to do before like July 4th. I don't know if I can fit in everything that I want. I'm like, oh, I have to fit it all in before the 250th is
Yeah.
over. I got the whole year, and I got lots of years after that to still kind of celebrate around the 4th and bring some Hamilton recipes. There's so many Jefferson recipes too that are just strange and delicious and delightful. And I'm remaking again like the drunken bread, which is amazing, and which is just basically like pour a bottle of wine into a loaf of bread and make mac and cheese. So there's endless exploration for me.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, are you going to do mac and cheese with it? Because he was like notorious for his mac and cheese love, and then ice cream. I guess he was big on ice
Yes.
cream too.
I got a homemade, I got an ice cream maker this past week in preparation for the Jefferson episode. So
Now, did you do it like he would, where it'd have to be like a crank, ice cream maker, or is it an electronic one?
taking a shortcut. So there's a fantastic channel. You probably are aware of it, Townsend's, and they do everything like they use the hand churning of the butter and whatever else. I'm trying to make it more accessible for modern day people if they want to make their own ice cream.
Right.
It tastes essentially exactly the same, but they don't have to like milk their own cow for it. So I got the machine for it, but it's still like, there's the laziest way of doing it. Like, oh, Thomas Jefferson liked ice cream. Let's just buy a pint of Ben and Jerry's. So
Right.
I really want to make it myself and have the fun there.
Right, and even myself, I've thought about getting my own ice cream maker because I'm a weird guy that I love ice cream. If I got a hankering for ice cream, it doesn't matter what time of year it is, I'm gonna go get it. So we could be in the middle of winter and it's negative 20 degrees out, and I could be like, hey, I really feel like a bowl of ice cream tonight.
Yeah.
And so I'm big on ice cream, but I just haven't pulled the trigger on getting the ice cream maker. I think we got an old crank one of my grandpa's out in one of the storage sheds somewhere, but it's like I don't know. Doing it with the machine might taste a little bit better than the old crank because at least the machine's going to get everything mixed up
Hmm.
properly in that. Whereas with the crank, it's kind of like mixing between a mixer and a whisk. You might not get everything with the whisk, but you're going to get everything with the mixer. So, you might have a little bit of a better version of Thomas Jefferson's recipes.
I'll let you know.
Um, I hope so. I'm looking forward to it. Like I tell people, I don't just bring random people onto the show. I bring people that I follow their content, and I do watch yours. Matter of fact, it gets so to the point where I'm flipping TikTok and it'd be like back to back videos because I've like skipped through all my other ones. So I do follow. Speaking of the 250th and the founding fathers, you recently-ish compared to, since you were on last year, got to work with Ken Burns. I'm a big Ken Burns documentary watcher. I love the Civil War. I did watch baseball. I did watch a lot of his Roosevelt one. I have not been able to watch the American Revolution one yet, but I'm hoping to get to it soon. He's big documentary guy, and he's known for getting pretty accurately stuff in there and stuff people don't actually know. But how did the Ken Burns stuff come about for you?
Yeah, I was a Ken Burns fan for many years. I loved the national parks, the Roosevelts, Civil War, the Vietnam War. I remember like watching those on my break, like watching the Vietnam War on my break, like lunch break on my computer. I used to work at this gallery, and then people would walk in like, "What are you watching?" Like, "Oh, just horrors, just watching horrors." But presented so like empathetically and intelligently. He's just a fantastic storyteller. So I was always a big fan. His team reached out to me, I guess about a year ago or so. His like publicists were big fans of the show, of Cooking with Congress, and they said we'd love for you guys to like find a way to work together. And so it took a little while to kind of get his schedule is like he's gone for years while he makes these documentaries. He just like disappears into the wilderness of the Northeast, and then when he comes out, he is like on the road every single day. It feels like promoting the show and does such a fantastic job and so much hard work doing that. So it took maybe I think 4 months from the initial contact to like pin down a date. We worked with PBS SoCal, so the like local PBS affiliate here in Southern California, and they said, "Hey, like we're having Ken in for this screening at the Academy Museum, the Academy Awards Museum, the Oscars."
Yeah.
I think we can like set up a quick black box in the back if you can bring the food in, and we can shoot there while he's in town. Essentially, like in between events, it will work. And I was like, "Let's do it." And so I made everything in my home. Put an artichoke pie and cheap dessert and some fire cakes, and then got to feed them to Ken Burns in the Academy Museum, like in what looks like a decent setup, but truly like we just threw it up right in the back before this event started. So it was kind of guerrilla style. PBS SoCal was awesome to like set the whole thing up. We've since become close friends, and Ken was just a delight to work with. Seriously, one of the like brightest, quickest people that I've met.
Yeah, he's, on top of being a solid documentarian, he's a good interview. He oh, that would be I would probably have to wrap this show up if I got to talk to him, just because that I think that would be peak. Not because I couldn't find anybody, more popular, more whatever, but it just that guy right there, because I grew up with it. Like I said, the Civil War documentary came out in like the 90s. So, I was born in 86. This will be my 40th year on this place we call Earth. That, I was probably 8, 9, 10 when that documentary came out. And, that started my love into the Civil War and the Old West and stuff like that. And then, he's done baseball. Well, I'm on top of being a football fan, I'm a big, Atlanta Braves baseball fan. So to sit there and watch a lot of that stuff, it really kicked in. And like I said, he's very accurate with a lot of his stuff. I know some people can call him out on, well, they didn't do it quite this way, but it's very few and far between that you get that call out on him. And yeah, and then you watch him in interviews, and he's just this quiet, intelligent type of guy that it just, you had me jealous. Let's just put it that way.
I think he's America's storyteller. Really, he has told so many of the major stories of like our country's past in a way that is unflinching, and I think like gives you wisdom and knowledge about the present, while being very set in the time period. Like you feel like
Yeah.
you're living in the American Revolution, and you're really understanding the landscape. I learned a ton from watching all the episodes as well. It's beautifully made. You definitely check it out when you get a chance, because it's well worth the hours that you spend on it. And I'll probably rewatch it, frankly, in the coming like weeks, just around the fourth too.
And that's what makes his so good, is their rewatchability.
Yeah.
There's some of them that you can watch that you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that was a good documentary, but yeah, I'm done with it. But his are, because you seem to learn new stuff every time you watch it. So
Yeah.
you could watch it like a dozen times and you're still learning new stuff, because you're like, okay, well, I've learned this already. Now I don't remember that being in there, and you could put him on par with some of the top directors in Hollywood, like a Kubrick or a Spielberg or something like that, because that's how much detail he puts into his work. But now you did the fire cakes, and I wish I would have clipped it. The look you gave when you first tried to bite into that the fire cake was amazing. Because it was just like like a surprised look, like, did I just break a tooth biting into this?
I know.
What's the difference between the fire cake and the hardtack that they would do in like the Civil War? What's the big difference between those?
Yeah, probably the amount of ash that you're eating is the difference. That's the main difference. There's no docking either, so you'll see like hardtack biscuits have like docking with a fork, right? Those like kind of
Yeah,
signature
yeah.
you see in a lot of biscuits. They're a little more uniform too. The fire cakes that I've seen are fairly rustic, even more rustic looking than the hardtack. And otherwise, the flavor profile very similar. The amount of time that you can keep them around too, they'll keep for years and years and years. And they're best had when you dunk them into a liquid, like water, coffee, something else. A lot of people had it that way. They're saltless. So they really had, because salt was a precious commodity in certain times during the American Revolution, so they didn't always have it to flavor the nothing,
Right.
the nothing that they were ingesting flavor wise. And frankly, I was afraid that like Ken was going to break a tooth more than I was going to break a tooth. Like I was like, I break a tooth, like that's okay, that's like good TV. If Ken breaks a tooth, like I'm gonna get buried in lawsuits and be the guy that like cracked Ken Burns' tooth before his big premiere, which would not be great. But he just dove right in as I was talking about. Oh, they're pretty hard. And he just bit into it before I was even prepared. I was like, oh, all right, great. He's jumping right in, and that's the same energy that it took into each bite. I think his reaction to the artichoke pie was really hilarious because it was like, did not expect that when we like cracked
Yeah.
it open. I didn't expect it either because I had made it without opening the lid. So I was like saving the lid reveal for Ken and myself to see at the same time. So I had no idea what it was going to look like inside. It was very interesting.
Yeah, and he, like you said, he seemed to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Is it like a sweet flavor to it? So like a dessert type of.
Yes, a dessert artichoke. That'll. I really do want to remake that one too, and like I think an artichoke pie could have. It's got potential. It definitely wasn't bad, but I wonder if it could be made into like an interesting version of a more modern pie, kind of like we do a sweet potato, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's possible. It's possible. I'm gonna play around. I'll do a recipe rescue at some point. Maybe see if I can get that over to Ken. Look a little prettier too than the weird relic that was inside that coffin crust to it, which is essentially like a box made of crust.
Right,
Uh,
right.
and you open it up, and there's like these desiccated looking artichoke bottoms. It was very
I
strange.
honestly didn't think it looked too bad myself. It was good presentation and all that too. But those coffin deals are, that obviously has a lot of British connotations to it because they're very notorious for that style. Um, but yeah, was it better than the Martha Washington lettuce pie?
Oh yeah, way better than lettuce pie. Absolutely, lettuce pie was a mistake. I'm grateful to have tried that one though, because it was so weird and so upsetting and so wet that it's stuck with me forever. And it like helped kickstart like my relationship with the California prunes, which was the prunes were like an important part of that recipe. You stew the prunes and lay them across. And I was like, what are prunes doing here? This is the second recipe in a row I've had prunes, and they like have been done dirty. And I like prunes because I'm an old man, but also because they're delicious. And they like reached out afterwards. They're like, "Hey, do you want to like save some of these recipes with prunes?" I was like, "Yeah." And so we partnered up. We partnered up for like 4 different episodes to rescue the prunes from these weird old recipes and make some delicious ones.
I'm one of those that, unless it has specific stuff in it, I'm open to try anything. And,
Yes.
I'm not a black olive person, so don't give me anything that has olives or any kind of olives. I don't like olives. So, and liver, any kind of livers, I've had that was one thing my parents always laughed about was I was willing and open to try it every time that they would have it. But the minute I put it in my mouth, I was sick of it, and I wouldn't throw it, but I would spit it back out. So I've had my shares of livers that I've tried it enough. I'm not a big fan of it. And there's a couple other things that if it's in it, coconut. I'm not a big coconut eater either. So if that stuff's in it, I won't try it. But I'm pretty open and honest on trying things. But there's some things that you make with these recipes. It's like, yeah, I'd try it, but I don't think I'd be happy about it.
Uh, you're not aching to try some of these. Yeah, I know. The nice part about the three things that you don't like is that they'll never touch into like a they'll never combine into like a mega horrible food for you. Like I can't imagine
Yeah,
with coconut flakes or coconut flakes with
no.
sugar. So at least you never have to worry about like your ultimate destruction in one meal. Whereas I've had to worry about that like a couple of times. Like I I really, really don't like ketchup. That's like my one thing I don't like. I'm extremely allergic to carrots, and like there'll
Yep,
be
yep.
at home where my daughter will just be like dipping carrots into ketchup and be like, "Dad," I'm like, "Oh my God, this is my night. This is my kryptonite right here."
Yeah, I always remember the carrot one because we talked about that last year, and I said that my dad's allergic to cucumbers, so it's kind of those weird allergies with it. And so kind of speaking of kids, you recently did your meals as a person in whatever district it is, and you recently ate like a 2.5-year-old toddler. How did you decide to pick that one?
Now, that's unkind. You can't call Mitch McConnell that. He's yeah, I get a ton of fascinating submissions for Eating Like America. I do one a week, which is it's a full day of eating when I eat like a person who's not a politician or public figure. The submissions have all historically come from like paid supporters of the show. I've got maybe 1,000 of those who are who get access to virtual cocktail classes for free, and they get to vote on certain things, like which president I'm going to eat like next was like the most recent poll I put out there. And they also get to submit their daily days of eating. I've had to pause submissions for a second just to catch up on the massive backlog. Because again, going one a week, I got way more submissions than I ever imagined, which is amazing. The toddler, I like to diversify by like region and profession and age. So it's not just like you get 7 from Florida in a row or something like that.
Right.
So I was like, well, I'd done my grandmother who's 98. I have a widowed homemaker up, soon who was 92. Eventually did that, and I was like, gotta like go a little younger here. And then I saw that there was someone who submitted, and they were like, we eat like my 2.5-year-old. So I was like, well, that's definitely young. And it was really fun. It was fun to treat the day like a toddler, and I kind of let it infect me in a nice way, and did art at the end of the day after my dessert. And I didn't. The only thing that was unrealistic is I didn't throw everything on the ground and scream, I guess. But
Well, and
I'll
you
say
forgot to mix it all together, and like just grab it by the handful.
shove it into my face. Yeah.
Did you go full out and sit there and watch cartoons while you were doing it? And
Go method. I was like, I'm considering that for like, I've been thinking about this fun series where I'll do like the morning routines of different public figures too, like not just the food, but also like what did their actual morning look like or their whole day look like, and live like that. Because of the toddler day and because of a few others, when people have added the color into their submissions and been like, usually I'll like, take a 4-mile hike afterwards, or I'll ride my bike and then I'll eat lunch. And I don't usually include that because like that's a big ask. I don't own a bike, unfortunately, stuff like that, or whatever. Or it's 100 degrees out in California. I'm not going to hike
yeah,
4 miles. But it was like, oh, that is kind of cool to like go method a little bit and even like add those activities in as well, because it does give you a more full picture, like living like that person for a day. Although then, to be frank, like I there's some lines I just won't cross with my wife, and like her changing my diaper is not gonna happen. I can't go full method, There's boundaries.
do you ever wonder if people just throw the most random stuff together and call it their day when they submit stuff?
I get that question a lot actually, where people are like, "Oh, this guy's trolling you. Like, no way that anyone eats like this." But I don't think that there's a real. That's partially why I opened it up just for paid supporters, because I was like, if I open it up to the whole world, I'm gonna get some random stuff that people could just
Yeah.
throw. Breakfast, a zin. Lunch, 5 zins. Like, all right, that's probably trolly, and I could always just say no. But I feel like there's an extra level of like, these are people who are in the Cookin with Congress community in some way. They love the show, and I think they really want to see themselves represented. They want to see like there's a major curiosity about like, well, what do you think? Like, how did it feel to eat like me for a day? And so they're really only like tricking themselves, and they also
Right.
they get plenty of me eating weird stuff. Like they don't need to submit something. They're never gonna top like fish jello. You know what I mean? Like there's no way. There was only one that I questioned whether it was real, because all the other ones, even if it's wild, like yeah, people eat strange diets, and that's part of that's part of the tapestry of America. That's why I love the series. The only one I questioned and I reached out was the craft cocktail bartender from Seattle. And I was like, okay, I just like tallied the numbers on the alcohol. Is this like sincerely what you drink during the day? And so like, I don't mean to like sound like a, patronizing jerk or whatever, but like, are you good? Like, are you all right? And she was like, yes, I drink much less now, but like, this was a really busy time. And she was very open about like this was true. And the funny part is a lot of other bartenders were like, this day looks like my day, And so what to many people is like, there's no way you are getting trolled. This is a problem. Like this is like, there's no way this is real. A lot of other people were like, this is too real. So it was very. I kind of highlighted, the odd amount of the high amount of alcohol consumption in that profession for certain people too. So it was fascinating, and it absolutely smashed me over the course of the day. I don't know if you saw that episode, but it was like lunch, 6 ounces of bourbon. I was like, man, it crushed me.
Well, you got to think about it though. A lot of the people in that, you got people sitting at the bar. Oh well, have this one's for you, or have this one, and
Yep.
like I said, I don't drink anymore. When I did, I worked at a gas station that we had a bar that was like right across the street. So after work, it was just, I'd go over there, and I had some friends that were bartenders and that. And you would just see that where, oh yeah, cheers. And they would drink. And it's like, how do you go through a day like that? I couldn't imagine working my job, an 8-hour shift of my job, sitting there throwing back shots and stuff like that. So it's crazy. But I also watched that you did the presidential cottage cheese, where you did the 4 different versions of cottage cheese, and of course, one of them was your bane of existence with the ketchup. Uh, but I have 2 more to throw out there for you. They're not presidential, but I know 2 certain people that I've grown up around that eat weird cottage cheeses.
Okay.
My mom loves putting green olives in her cottage cheese.
That's your nightmare.
That's my nightmare. And my dad will put either maple syrup or sorghum in his.
Yeah, I've had maple syrup. I've had sorghum as well. That was my grandma loved sorghum. That was like her main syrup of
Yeah.
choice. So I've had that. I think those are kind of nice. Maybe a little crushed nuts or some raisins on top or blueberries or whatever. That totally works. Olives on cottage cheese. I could see that being honestly. That just sounds like combining parts of like Gerald Ford's lunch, which is like martini, a dirty martini or whatever, and cottage cheese with raw onion and steak sauce. So, like, if you take some elements of the martini and put it into the cottage cheese, there you go. I would bet that would be not terrible. I would try that. Green olives over cottage cheese. Is it going to be, something I return to often? Probably not. But it's in that savory category. Like my favorite was probably the Jimmy Carter, which was tomato, salt, and pepper. I was like, this is kind of
Yeah.
nice. That. So I bet that olives, maybe a little bit of pepper in there. Yeah, I think that's potential. I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, I mean, she don't eat it constantly, but there be times that she'll go in there and mix it. It's like, Mom, what are you doing? And then she's throwing olives in her cottage. She's like, okay, yeah, yeah, more power to you on that one.
Uh,
Uh, you know, I love cottage cheese, but I don't really mix anything in it because it has that unique flavor already that I haven't been able to find that perfect thing that I'd want to throw in there and try to mix it. I There be times at work that I'll get kind of rush for lunch, so I'll have like baked lays with my cottage cheese, and I'll like dip the lays into the cottage cheese and eat it that way. And just because I have a short amount of time with lunch, it's like, okay, well, I got to get my food intake in quick, and I can't sit here and enjoy it. And it's got it's not bad. It's an interesting flavor to it too, but I haven't got to the point where it's like, okay, yeah, what do I want to mix into my cottage cheese?
You ever see those recipes that are like, I made bread out of cottage cheese and it's like healthy bread, or I made, like I blended cottage cheese and made it into like ice cream or a cake or something. And
Yeah,
yeah.
I follow Liam.
Yeah, there you go. He took the cottage cheese challenge. He did it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I actually sent him a message trying to get him on the show, but I never heard back from him. But yeah, he's the cottage cheese king, if you want to call him such thing.
Yes, I do. I do.
Um,
He got tagged so many times when I put up the challenge. I was like, he's gonna have to do it. That's great. And he echoed my sentiments on ketchup with cottage cheese. Not good. Not good at all.
and I know you don't like ketchup, but I've put ketchup on like my mac and cheese, and it adds a
Yeah, my dad does that
uh,
too. He likes it. Yeah.
yeah. But so you also talked to another guy that I really enjoy a lot of his stuff. I actually grew up watching Wishbone, and he was a writer on Wishbone that I found out later on. But I also love the radio show Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, and he's on a panelist now and again, and that's Mo Rocca.
Mhm.
What was that like, and how did that come about with the interview you did with him? And
Yeah.
how do I compare to his interview?
I don't know how tall you are, but Mo is much taller than you'd expect. I think that's how you compare. Uh, Mo was wonderful to talk to. That CBS Sunday Morning, their team reached out. I guess, yeah, last year. It was like right after we moved into this new house, and they were just interested in talking about presidential eating. He is a presidential nerd. He's visited, I think,
Yeah.
like lots of the different graves of many of the U.S. presidents. Obviously, he was a Daily Show correspondent as well, which is where I first saw him when I was younger, and I loved the Daily Show growing up because I was like, politics and comedy, you could do that? This is amazing. Um, yeah, so they set up the interview. They came, for a day and shot a bunch of B-roll of me making James Garfield's squirrel soup. Excuse me, and then the next day we sat down for a really fantastic interview. He's incredibly easy to talk to. Just like Ken, just smart as a whip and knows his stuff about all the presidents and the time period. So we were able to like really geek out. Some of the stuff never made it to the full interview, which is okay. But there were so many rabbit holes we went down, and that he knew, about the first ladies, and he was like aware of Helen Taft and like her condition that may have stressed out William Howard Taft, and that's why he started eating so much. So he was just like, it was fun to just play basically for a full hour, and then he was game enough to actually put ham mousse into his mouth, which is
Yeah.
uh, credit to him for the bravery. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and like I said, he's I remember watching Wishbone and seeing the weird name Mo Rocca on there, but I never put two and two together when I got older. But yeah, he's very intelligent and a lot of funny. Like I said, I listen. I don't listen to it as much now just because there's so many podcasts and everything else that I try to keep up with. But I did love Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me. I would listen to that constantly, and just some of the stuff that he would pull off on there is tremendous. And yeah, he's big into the histories and that. So because he did a show, I think he had a podcast. I don't know if he still does it, but it's like Mobituaries or something like that, where
Yeah.
yeah, where he'll go through and read weird and obituaries and stuff like that. So
Yeah, it's a great show. He like we were talking about Wishbone a little bit because I also grew up on Wishbone. That's how I think it helps birth the love of reading for me.
yeah,
That show, and he was saying, and I'll probably butcher his words. He said it so eloquently, but Wishbone was the hardest writing job he ever had. He said because you're taking classics of literature and then distilling them down into a kid-friendly format, and then you're taking that kid-friendly format and you're translating it through the eyes of a dog. And so there's all these levels of understanding that the writers room was very aware of when they were creating each episode. And I just thought that was such an interesting perspective as someone who, I had just watched it as a kid and enjoyed it, and I didn't really think about the craft that went into it and the difficulty and trying to, get that across and have it resonate with kids. It's incredibly hard work.
And then cutting it down to like a 28, 30-minute format that's crazy. But I did love the show. I wish they would do a kind of an updated version of it, because I think a lot of the PBS shows that we grew up with, I think, could do with a renaissance, because kids need something like that. Wishbone, Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, stuff like that.
I know Reading Rainbow is a big one. I grew up on Arthur, but yeah, Carmen Sandiego. I had like a video game on a CD, I guess, like a PC game of like Where in Time, Carmen Sandiego. And that, I still think about that at least once a month. Anytime I'm like, oh, Nefertiti. I like saw that reference in a museum exhibit. That reminds me of that amazing CD-ROM video game of Where in Time in San Diego.
I will go one further with you. I remember the floppy disk that you would put into, and yeah. So I do, and I remember coming home from whatever grade I was in, and that would be one of the first things that we would flip on and watch. And I think Ghost Rider was another one that was tremendous. That I think that stuff would help kids nowadays. If you're going to put them in front of a screen, at least give them something that's going to try to generate wanting to read. Like you said, Wishbone. I went out and read all the classics once I watched Wishbone. I was reading Tale of Two Cities when I was in 4th grade because of friggin' Wishbone. And Dickens is still one of my favorite authors because I watched a lot of the Wishbone stuff. So not to get on a long, that could be a whole nother podcast talking about old TV shows. Recently just started a new thing. I don't know if it's for YouTube specifically or if you're going to kind of cross-platform it, but I did see that you did a fireside chat.
Yes.
What are your hopes with the fireside? I love the story that you told about it. Told on that one. But what's your outlook on what you're wanting to do with your fireside chats?
Yeah, so I've got the second episode actually coming out in the next week, which is exciting. I really wanted to, the greatest reins on my ambitions for the show and my curiosity is just time, right? It just takes so much time. I've been trying to tell these longer stories, and because I'm a presidential nerd, I'm like a presidential nerd since age 5 or 6 or whatever. So to be able to tell that longer story and still clip it out with some food involved, the cocktails involved. That's my background actually, and so as we've talked about before, is I used to teach cocktail classes, worked at a distillery, and so being able to integrate that part of my experience has been fun, beyond just a spiced toddy.
Right.
My own drinks that are related and be creative that way. And so this next episode is going to be about the gigantic wheel of cheese that existed in the White House during Andrew Jackson's presidency. And so if you are a West Wing fan, you've probably heard of Big Wheel of Cheese Day, but that is only 2% of the story was what you heard on that. I have a few others planned, but to be totally candid, the stuff with the 250th and the amount of partnerships that I've got kind of overtook the Fireside Chat series. So I was like, I'll probably have time to do 10 of these, but man, it is hard to keep up with that and the July 4th. There's a lot of travel I've got this year as well, which is exciting. And I'm not sure if we talked about this prior. I have not announced it to the mass following on social media yet, but I am also working on a cookbook, and so that has taken up.
You beat me to it. I actually have it wrote down. When are we getting a cookbook?
In a while, but I'm spending a lot of time in the kitchen right now in preparation of that. So you won't be able to stop hearing about it whenever I've released it to the public and it's official, but it's still some time away. And so I've got permission from the publisher to yep, you can tell podcast hosts you can tell people on, TV or whatever, if you can tell Mo Rocca or whatever, which I did, but they're like, don't like make any big announcements on social media. So we'll keep this between me, you, and all of your viewers and listeners.
All 50 of them,
Yes.
we're good. Um,
Which is thrilling and exciting, and definitely has taken me away from a certain series more than I wanted. So it's been slower. I was like, I'll do one a week, and then I was like, probably one a month for the fireside chats, but very excited to the next one.
does a lot of now I know prep is big because I'm the same way here. Even though we do 1 to 2 shows a week, prep is big.
Mm.
But how how long does it take you to prep? And what's the production that goes into what you're doing?
Depends on the episode. For the Eating Like series, which is probably the most popular one, is when I eat like a first lady or a president or a politician for a whole day. The day itself is a full day. Like I wake up and I'm in the kitchen, depending, but I'm in the kitchen, starting at 8, cooking, and then eating around. It's like an 8 to 8 day, so a 12-hour day. Obviously, I do other stuff in between the eating and the cooking, but the, the presidents had staff, or they had
Right.
like people who were enslaved who made the things for them. Like I got me, and so I'm making all the stuff myself, and so it's a pretty time-intensive day. The research is really heavy as well. I actually had to hire a research assistant, which is fantastic. Her name's Star Rose. She is wonderful, and she has helped me kind of like needle down on things that were maybe apocryphal that I had heard, right? Like I heard Ben Franklin started his day with like gruel and porridge. Is that accurate to his like the 1770s, or is that more of an early day thing? And so she'll go down the rabbit hole. She has connections with all the like libraries and museums, and she'll be like, she'll find out, nope, that was him in his like early 20s where he ate gruel, not so much in his 70s. Which like if you go, and there's a bunch of like AI history accounts now where they show, some like, I saw one where it was like Ben Franklin's like daily day of eating. And I was like, damn, I was going to do that. And I'm still going to do that. But I saw it first with this AI account, but it's completely inaccurate. It shows his, in his 70s, like as you understand him, Ben Franklin, but he's eating the food that he ate when he was a teenager, right? And so it's about that like intensive fact checking, because there's a world in which I just like, oh, well, they must be right. I'll just eat gruel this morning, right? And then that's the day of eating. I'm a stickler for also like calling out my own mistakes. And so if I've messed up, I recently even just like I screwed up a club sandwich because someone was just like, that's not a club sandwich. Where's like the bread should be toasted and there should be a toothpick in a club sandwich classically, and a third layer of bread. And I was like, oh my God, what I have called and what has been called in my like home a club sandwich since I was a kid, not a club sandwich. Never toasted the bread, only had 2 pieces. So I was like, I'm so sorry. Like, you're right. It's like, thank you for pointing this out, because I want to learn. I want to make it better. And I want to, take the time to do the research. On those Eating Like America days, that's where I don't have, Star Rose working on it. And so I rely on the fact that, like, I know what a club sandwich is, when apparently I didn't.
And yeah, those AI accounts are there's another podcast that I follow, Mash Matters, talking about the TV show MASH, and they call out those AI things all the time because they put the clickbait title on there, and this person was the most hated person behind scenes, and then it's just all AI created mess. So I feel you on that. Luckily we're not big enough that we have to worry about my show being AI clipped for anything, so we're good on that one.
Well, it's about like, I feel like I weirdly picked a profession that's a little bit AI proof, where you're like, yeah, I guess like you could, like someone could do an AI version of them eating the meals and stuff, but man, that would be a lot of work. And like everyone kind of knows, like, oh, is there someone who's eating like a president? Like, we know who that is now. Like, and I have to put my body through it. Like, I'm sure they could have an AI generated, like, what I've seen is like a lot of dudes will AI generate like an attractive young woman to like go walk through history, and like, I'm on the Titanic, I'm trying to save everyone. And that's not what the creator looks like. The creator just, is a guy in his like 30s or 40s. And so I could see a world in which someone's like, maybe I'll have like, an attractive young woman in her 20s eat like a president every single day. But I think I beat AI enough. I got to it first, and I put my body through it. That and I do the actual cooking and whatever else. That hopefully I'm AI proofing cooking with Congress that way. I don't know.
Well, yeah, you're never going to get the true reactions out of it. You could have AI eat a lettuce pie, but you're not going to get the reactions out of actually eating a lettuce pie. Knowing AI, they would thoroughly enjoy it, and it would be like amazing. It's like, okay, whatever.
It's probably turned into like an influencer, like clicking the cup or whatever, and being like, "You have to try this new lettuce pie from Martha Washington. Most decadent, gets you 12 grams of fiber for every slice or whatever."
Yeah. I don't have too much more for you, but this being a Packers related show, I wanted to throw a recipe out there that I found from one of the greatest coaches to ever coach the game of football. This was I just want to read you the recipe, and you just give me a breakdown on what you would think of it, and if you would want to change anything or whatever with it. But this is a recipe that he put it or was featured in the All Stars Athletes Cookbook from 1965.
Ooh.
So this is one of those that from Vince Lombardi that supposedly this is the recipe that he made himself every time that they would have a party. It was his specialty to make. So it's called Vince Lombardi's broiled deviled ham steaks. Yeah, it's quite interesting. So the ingredients is 1 box Coleman's dry mustard, 4-ounce size, a 1/4 cup fresh orange juice, 1 ham steak about a 1/2 inch thick, Caro sauce or syrup, and then for the side dish, it's sweet potatoes or yams baked and buttered.
Corn syrup? Just straight up corn syrup is one of the ingredients.
Yeah, well, they call it Caro syrup,
Yeah,
Cairo syrup.
yeah. Karo.
But yeah.
Yeah, that'd be corn syrup. Fascinating. And then you just you mix together the first ingredients, glaze it basically, the hams.
Yeah, so here's the instructions. It's only 3 instructions for it. So you put the dry mustard in a mixing bowl, blend in orange juice and enough syrup to make a medium thin paste. Spread paste on both sides of ham steak. Place under broiler on rack for 15 minutes on each side.
15 minutes.
Serve with potatoes or yams baked and buttered. It doesn't say, 15 minutes on the broiler. Yeah, broilers are set. Yeah.
That's a long time for sugar to be exposed to fire. I am fascinated to see if that comes out. I mean, I'm imagining there's no way that is. If you follow the exact instructions, that isn't just burnt pig. Like that's. I want to try it, obviously, and it's only for one pig though. That's fascinating. I would have thought that would serve like a significant amount more, but
well, it says serves 4 to 6.
Okay. So it's a per ham steak. I don't know, like okay, yeah, 4 to 6 for that amount kind of makes sense, but still, 30 minutes with the broiler is pretty intense. That's usually like a 2 to 3 minute scenario for most things before it gets crackly. So maybe broilers were less intense in the 60s. I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's what I was gonna say. Was it doesn't have what the temperature is, because I know the broiler now is pretty toasty. So I'm kind of wondering about that back then too. But yeah, so I found that. And like I said, I read that this is the one that whenever they had dinner parties or special occasions that he specifically wanted this made every time.
Wow. Okay. Well, I really thought you were going to be like 2 tablespoons of greatness mixed with 4 cups of perseverance. Mix in some...
Well, that's why it doesn't burn, is because he's such a great, godly coach that he tells it don't burn and it doesn't burn.
That's probably true. You can coach the burn off of the ham steak if you're good enough. So, man, I'm very curious. I kind of want to try that. I've encountered a few NFL players' recipes, Steve Largent mostly, a few times, and a couple others. But that'd be a fun one. I might just get curious. If you want to send it my way, I might give it a whirl. Football season in the fall.
Well, I'm even interested in just this cookbook period because, like I
Yeah.
said, All Star Athletes Cookbook from '65, and it says from all sports, baseball to car racing, football to golf, and everything in between. So it makes me wonder what recipes are in there, and I might even, if I can find the book, might even get it myself. But
Yeah, yeah, get it. I think it's great. I am always building my collection of odd cookbooks, mostly politicians, political figures, etc. But occasionally, like I just grabbed what's it called? The Enchanted Hill cookbook, which is like the Hearst Castle cookbook. If you know, like
yeah,
Hearst, the newspaper guy, he's got a literal castle out here in California, and
yep.
it's a cookbook, and it's pretty weird.
Yeah, he had the castle, but he liked living on his yacht out in the bay.
Yeah, over here. The castle is so cool. It's true. They have 25-foot tapestries in there and dining halls that look like if they're for royalty. There's zebras running around. It's so cool. And the
But
recipes.
that's what you do when you got so much money you don't know what to do with it.
What are you gonna do? You gotta get some zebras.
So I told you I'd keep you about an hour. We're about at that mark now. Would you like to tell everybody where they can find you and what more you're up to, even though we've pretty much covered what you're up to until the 4th of July?
Yeah, yeah. You can find me at Cookin, Cookin, no G at the end there. Cookin with Congress, pretty much anywhere. Instagram, YouTube for the longer form episodes, which have been exciting to be able to dive into. TikTok. I've got a Substack that I release once a month, just kind of a newsletter, keeping people in touch. And then you can stay tuned, in the future. I'm sure I'll talk to you before the cookbook is out and
Well, we got to make sure when you do release it that we get you back on so we can go through and if you need any Iowa specific recipes, you know who to reach out to.
Thanks for having me on again, Joe. This is great.
I love it. You can follow him at all his what he just said, TikTok and all that. You can follow us, Ohana Packers Edition, on Facebook, Instagram, and I think that's it for that. It's Ohana_Packers on the Twit machine. I'm Iowa Joe on Blue Sky. I'm a little bit more active on Blue Sky than I am on Twitter for obvious reasons. Um, we do have a TikTok page where you can find clips of the show over there. YouTube, make sure you subscribe wherever you get your favorite shows. That way you can keep up with guests that we have on. We'll be starting back to Packer content probably about mid to late July, so Mike will be back by then. We are still trying to get to 100 followers on Facebook. It's been a little bit rough because trying to put content up over on Facebook is a little bit of a pain. But once we do have stuff for the giveaway, autographed pictures, Hawaiian treats. There you go, Bennett. You can follow us over there and have a shot at some of the goodies Mike sent us from Hawaii.
There you go.
But send in questions, send in any, if you got guests. I'm still looking for somebody to talk paranormal. So if anybody knows somebody who has a paranormal podcast or anything, send that my way. That way we can get in touch. As Mike would say, go Pack Go and aloha.
Packers fans out here to stay. Cheeseheads green and gold all day. Jordan Love lead us to the bay. Every game we find a way. Green Bay hustle, grind it up. Hit the field, we don't bluff. Touchdown dances, feel the love. Jordan's got that MVP stuff. It's time for let's go. Packers bringing that show. It's time for green and gold gonna glow. Lambeau Field, our sacred ground. Feel the vibe, hear the sound. Packers fans so loud and proud. Jordan Love, he's wearing the crown. Lambeau Field, our sacred ground. Feel the vibe, hear the sound. Packers fans so loud and proud. Jordan Love, he's wearing the crown.